So I know it's kind of weird to be reviewing this now, considering that it came out a couple weeks ago, but you guys have been asking me to talk about this, and it was either this or Medea's family funeral this weekend. So welcome to the post-Geekout reaction for Umbrella Academy, everyone.
No association with the Umbrella Corporation.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I'm wearing a zombie shirt. I didn't think about that. All right, you got me. I was about to come in here and be like, that's a weird reference. But I was like, oh, no, I'm wearing a shirt. Okay, all right, you got me.
Hey, Peach, hi.
Yes,
Hi.
Peach wants attention. By the way, yes, we do have a review of Resident Evil 2 coming up. This show is kind of awesome. I had vague familiarity with the comic because before the comic came out, they ended up putting out this little like preview thing. It was like a Dark Horse book that had like several previews of upcoming books. And I read the preview for Umbrella Academy and I was like, oh, okay, I see why people would like this, but it so isn't my thing. It's written by Gerard Way, and Gerard Way is just not my type of author. Like, I love him in My Chemical Romance, but he's one of those comic book writers kind of like Grant Morrison. I'm getting really nerdy for all you guys. He's kind of like Grant Morrison, where he's one of those guys where it's like, I like weird stuff, but their version of weird is, well, I'm the fifth dimensional concept of the very being that comes from this reality that exists within inside the bus that is in this parking lot that was controlled by this man who runs a corporation that was from space, and just on and on and on and on. I was like, okay, I'm out, I'm done. Like, that's my kind of thing. Like, he's the current writer on Doom Patrol, and everybody out there loves Doom Patrol, and I read his Doom Patrol and go, I see why everyone loves this. It is so not my thing. So I didn't really read much of Umbrella Academy. Like, in the very first episode, when number 5 comes back from the future, and they're like, well, how did you get back? And he says something along the lines of, I jumped into an alternate reality version of myself that exists across all times at the same moment, so that way I could link into this universe. I was like, that's exactly Gerard Way's type of writing, and I am not into that. Like, that's just not my thing at all. However, I will say, this turned out to be way more grounded than what I was expecting. Like, it took that super high concept level of weirdness that Gerard Way tends to write, and because, like with any superhero thing, you have to tap it down for the normal people out there who, they don't really go in for these super crazy stuff. They had to tap some of the crazy back. They kind of pulled it right into that perfect spot for my level of weirdness. How did you feel about this?
I really liked the first few episodes. It really piqued my interest. But then along the middle, it kind of felt like it dragged for me.
Really? Now?
And then at the end, it's like, oh, now things are kicking up.
Okay, because at the end of this, for like the last 3 episodes of this thing, we didn't say a word through any of those episodes. We were just there looking at it like, we will take out our phones every now and again while we're watching something. Just go, I'm just going to check this thing real quick. And it's like, it's not like it distracts us that much. But man, neither of us got even close to our phones in those last 3 episodes. We were just focused on this thing. I can understand it dragging a little bit in the middle, but I think the reason it didn't quite drag for me that much was because I'm used to the Marvel Netflix shows, which are 13 episodes long, and they tend to have one storyline going on, whereas this one was 10 episodes long and had like 8 storylines going on. So to me, this was a complete breath of fresh air.
I guess so, but it's like because there's like so much going on.
Yes.
Off screen. It's like, when are we going to get to all that?
When are we going to get to the fireworks factory?
Yes. Much.
I can understand that as well. But by the way, let me go ahead and say all the Marvel Netflix shows have now been canceled. And I'm not going to get into like the conspiracies and stuff about who canceled what and why they canceled what. I've talked about that in other videos on this channel before. But I will just say, if this is the kind of stuff that we're going to get from Netflix in terms of comic book adaptations, now that the Marvel shows are gone, bye Marvel, bye. Don't let the door hit Iron Fist on the ass on the way out. You know that boy ain't right, okay? I really dig the Marvel Netflix shows. You know that. I've talked about them many times here on this channel. But I always had problems with the Marvel Netflix shows that I never really talked about because I just looked at them and went, well, yeah, but they're comic book television show adaptations. They're just always going to kind of be like this. And this came in here and said, no, they don't actually have to be like that. They can actually be, good like a normal TV show. A lot of people out there accuse me of hating like the DC shows. I don't hate the DC shows, just I don't think they're good enough to be worth tuning in week after week after week. Whereas with the Marvel shows, I could watch them all, just binge them right there in one sitting. And they were more serious, so they were kind of addressing like, they could go to a level that the DC shows couldn't. So because of that, I did kind of fall in love with the Marvel shows. Watching this made me look at the Marvel shows the way I looked at the DC shows when I watched the Marvel shows. Like, oh my God, we could actually have people acting in these things before? Oh my God, we could actually have cinematography that wasn't just the one thing over and over and over and over again all the time. We could actually have like a story that progressed and moved, and we could actually do weird shit in this all over. Yeah, man, this made me look at the Marvel shows like, what the fuck was your problem then? Because I kept looking at the Marvel shows like, yeah, okay, I know the acting's kind of flat, but, that's just how it is in a television show of a comic adaptation. You're not going to get really the biggest names out there or anything. And now, man, I am just looking at this show.
Yeah, speaking of big names.
Where, there's, oh my goodness. You had, a decent chunk of, big name actors in here, but they were acting their asses off because, listen, I want to come in here and say, I don't think the actors on the Marvel shows are bad. But all the actors on the Marvel shows are one thing for the entire season. Daredevil is always this. I'm always just constantly questioning my own fate. And Jessica Jones is always mad, which I was okay with that, because when you know Jessica Jones' backstory, you're like, yeah, okay, this entire thing is dealing with a guy who did all that stuff to her. You can understand her being mad the entire time. But everyone else in that entire season is one thing the entire time. And everyone else in Daredevil is one thing the entire time. Wilson Fisk is one thing the entire time. You get into Iron Fist, and Iron Fist was bad the entire time. And then you get into Luke Cage, and Luke Cage is one thing the entire time. And I'm not talking about, messages in those shows, because those shows, they would, address, several different issues. They would address several different issues in each of them. I mean, the acting in every single character was all one thing. You watch this, and people are all over the goddamn place in this thing. I mean, the freaking drug addict in this one, he has his own, one-story arc in which he gets PTSD because he's sent time-traveling back to Vietnam, and he has, a 8-month-long experience there, and now he's got his own thing going on. Oh, my goodness! Holy crap! And the guy who plays number 5, this teenager is acting circles around all the people in the goddamn Marvel Netflix shows who are adults who have had lifetime experiences on this. And I want to come in here and say, I am not pointing at any of the actors on those shows and saying, well, you were clearly bad actors. I'm pointing at the people who were behind those shows.
Yeah, the ones who have to direct and everything.
It makes me realize, the difference is the people who made Umbrella Academy actually got it. They actually went all in on this thing, whereas the people making the Marvel Netflix shows were like, yeah, we're making a comic book thing. It's like, yeah, but that can be many things. That can be a lot of stuff in there. Oh my God. Hey, Peach. Peach sees me waving my arms around and she needs attention. All right. So yeah, I'm going to get off bad-mouthing the Marvel Netflix shows because you shouldn't speak ill of the dead. But yeah, it was just so stunning to me that also, every single Marvel Netflix show, it's got the exact same goddamn cinematography. Every single one of them is just dark alley, dark alley, dark alley, dark warehouse, dark alley, dark alley, dark alley, dark warehouse.
So
That's that same. There's the docks. We gotta go to the docks in every single goddamn one of these.
The Marvel series is basically like the DC movies.
Oh, God. Man, I remember in Iron Fist when they were like, we have to go to China. And they went to some warehouse out by the docks, as always, where they had to put just up a Chinese sign on the door. And I was like, you film in New York, there's literally a Chinatown in New York, you idiots. Why are you here? Yeah, Peach, you gotta get down now. Yeah, but this one, I remember in episode 1, when they all just start dancing in their individual rooms, and they do that thing where they pull the camera out and they show all of them like it's a little dollhouse with every single one of them in their own little compartment. Oh my goodness! That was a great shot! The only really good stuff that I can say, listen, I know people are going to say, well, what about this stuff in the Marvel Netflix shows? I'm still not saying the people who worked on those shows were bad. They did do creative stuff, in season 3 of Daredevil, where they had that fight scene that went from room to room to room, all in one shot. That was brilliant. But that's stuff that you can, pinpoint in each of them. You can go, that was brilliant in that episode. That was brilliant in that episode. This whole show, every single goddamn frame of it is life. Every frame of this has come to life. And they spent freaking money on this thing. When that talking ape showed up in episode 1. I just looked at it like, oh god, this is gonna look so bad. Okay, well, it actually looks pretty good in this episode. Well, I bet they spent all their money on that one shot and he'll never be back. Oh, he's in every freaking episode? And he looked good in every episode? How? How did you have the money for that? Netflix, did you just have that, like, sitting around the entire time? Like, I'm honestly wondering if, like, the reason why Netflix canceled the Marvel shows is because Marvel was holding them back. Or I shouldn't say Marvel, because you know that the people at Marvel are like, please spend money on this. We want Daredevil to look nice, please. We don't want Iron Fist to be shitty. Come on. No, I think that Disney was like, how much profit can we make off this? How much profit can we make if we spend less money? Yeah, that's what happened on that. And I think that Netflix just looked at that and said, you know what, we kind of just want to actually make something with a budget here. And this, oh my goodness, I really cannot get over like night and day between this and all the other superhero comic book television show adaptations out there. You know, Iron Fist comes from a mystical magical village where he got his powers by punching a dragon. What did you see in the mystical magical village? You saw like one shot of him and Davos standing against like this big stone archway that looks like it came from a Shakespeare in the Park performance. And then like it zooms into the darkness behind them and then you just see 2 eyes light up in there. Get the fuck out of here with that. This has a talking chimpanzee in every episode who we have a big 4K TV which makes good things look better and it makes bad things look worse. This looked good. I kept going, okay, we got a really nice TV. We're going to see every crack in that chimp's face. Oh, there's no cracks in that chimp's face. Oh my goodness. It just looked great. So we got that in every episode. We have like a freaking post-apocalyptic world that they keep going back to over and over and over again. And it always looked good. Every single time that number 5 teleported, that looked better than any effect in any of the freaking Marvel shows. Okay, I'm done talking about the Marvel shows. I'm done. We're going to talk about this thing here. By the way, I should point out that after watching this, I have started reading the Umbrella Academy comic. Like I said, I kind of got turned off by that preview that they put on. I've started reading the comic. The comic is way more grounded than most Gerard Way stuff, so I have actually started to really enjoy the comic as well. It actually has really surprised me. It's very different from most Gerard Way stuff. It's still really insane, but it is more grounded. There isn't all that, like, backwards, mixed up, fifth dimensional imp talk that like a lot of writers like to do. I can read this and go, I understand what's happening in this book. Hooray! Okay. I'm kind of stupid, everyone. But okay, let's get into this actual show. Okay, one last comparison to the Marvel shows. The guy who plays Luther in here, number 1, Space Boy, is British. And so was Daredevil, and so was Iron Fist, and the entire time I was like, I can pinpoint that thing that British actors do when they're trying to do the American accent, where it feels like they're screeching on the brakes constantly because the English accent is a far more fluid accent than the American accent. So a lot of British actors, when they do American accents, have to cut off their words right there. Like you can feel them trying to stop their words. I did not pick up on this guy's British accent ever in this show, except in like the last episode, there was a moment in which he yells at the girl who does rumors.
Oh, yeah, Allison.
Allison. There's a moment where he yells at her, and I could hear the accent coming out there. That is the, like, in all 10 episodes.
Although, considering, like, all these kids came from different parts of the world, it wouldn't surprise me if he was British.
That kind of bummed me out. That's like, you have this premise where they all came, well, they were adopted when they were babies.
Yeah.
And taken to America. So that actually,
that would explain it.
Because Vanya is Russian, but she has no accent there. But okay, all right, enough of that. All right, into the actual show itself. For anybody who has not seen this, at this point, you probably have seen this thing because I don't think anybody stuck around this long just to hear me keep bitching about the Marvel shows. You probably have been sitting here going, yeah, didn't you guys just complain about not getting to the point, Umbrella Academy? Get to the fucking point already. Yeah. Basically, what this is that...
It's like a really messed up Charles Xavier school for special kids.
You know what's really weird? A lot of people, the actual comic itself took inspiration from Doom Patrol. A lot of people say X-Men ripped off Doom Patrol, because Doom Patrol came like 6 months before X-Men, and it was, hey, we're a bunch of misfits gathered together by this guy in a wheelchair. So yeah, it is basically that. It is... One day, which you never learn what caused this, by the way. But that's just kind of the world that you're in here when you get into this. That one day, 30 years ago,
Like 12 kids were all randomly born.
Oh no, it was like 27 or so.
I thought it was 12.
Oh, it might have been.
Because like he found 7 of them. So
He found 7.
So I'm wondering like where the other ones are. I'm guessing they're gonna find out, reveal themselves in like.
That's gotta be
seconds.
like, if they don't get to that, then that would just be a huge waste. I mean, you literally wrote like a giant check to yourselves of like, here's the IOU for future storylines. Yeah, no way that won't come back at some point. Although, listen, when we talk about Netflix shows, we tend to not hide any of the spoiler stuff simply because it's not like you have to go out to a movie and spend money on this thing. If you have Netflix and you have any interest in seeing this thing, you've seen it by now. So yeah, we're going to go full spoilers. At the end of this thing, I have no idea where they're going to go in the next season. Because at the end of this, he's like, we're going to go back in time, and you see each of them kind of like turning back into their kid selves. Are you going to like just rewrite everything that happened in this entire season? Which normally that'd be the kind of thing that would bum me out. That would be the kind of thing that I would look at and be like, oh, so everything that I just watched in this season didn't matter? But this show is so weird that they could do something like that, and I'd be like, that's par for the course for this show. That is absolutely, like, you have established a series at this point where I have no problems with you doing something that weird. So I'm totally okay with they decide to do that.
Also, like, don't they, like, retain their memories?
They would retain their memories. Yes. So, yeah, there would be something different going on. But my question then would become, so would we just have the child actors for, like, several episodes until we, like, caught up to present day? And if you do catch up to present day, would that mean that you would have to lose the actor playing number 5? Because I don't want you to lose that actor playing number 5. That guy was awesome. That guy is like a teenager, and he is going around acting like a curmudgeon-y 60-year-old man and nailing it every single turn. Yeah, basically it's a series where all these kids are born all over the world at the exact same time. Like, not even the same day, exact same, like, minute they're born by women who were not pregnant. And this guy, who he's meant to be like one of those pulp hero explorer type characters, he goes around trying to gather up as many of them as he can. He ends up getting 7, and he starts this little academy to try and train them to save the world.
Because they're supposed to have superpowers.
Yes. And 6 of them have powers, 1 of them doesn't. Or so we think. Again, we're going full spoilers on this thing, which we already spoiled how it ends. So, I mean, hey, man, as we said, I warned you all. Yeah, it is later revealed that Vanya, played by Ellen Page, which, man, going into this, when I saw Ellen Page was going to be in this, I had that fear in the back of my head of, like, Ellen Page is way too good for a Netflix show, and I'm really hoping that she will not phone it in. She did not! Ellen Page shows up to work.
Like, between Umbrella Academy and Roma, I feel like Netflix is starting to, like, bump up its,
Man, yeah, that's another reason why I think that Netflix canceled the Marvel shows. I know a lot of people look over at Netflix, like, at Marvel, like, oh, Marvel, they pulled it away from there because they have their own streaming service coming. Marvel has said they're not going to have R-rated material on, not Marvel, but Disney said they're not going to have R-rated material on their streaming service. The Marvel Netflix shows were indeed R-rated, so basically if Marvel wanted to take it away from there, they were basically taking away a source of income that they couldn't replicate themselves, which is not smart business. And Disney, say whatever you want about them, they know how to make money. So yeah, that would have made sense. I really do think that was Netflix looking over them and like, listen, man, we're tired of putting up with your shit. We're tired of going through like 5 different hoops on every single one of these shows, and we're tired of all the restraints you keep placing on us. And they're not even doing that well in the ratings anymore. Like, the ratings on each of those shows had dropped significantly. I do think that Netflix was like, we can actually do good shit now, as long as you leave us alone. Because you know Gerard Way wasn't coming in there. It's like, well, this is my vision, and you have to do this exactly as I say. Gerard Way came in there and went, this is how it happens. Make it happen. Bam. I'm out. I'm going to write a brand new song for your outro. Which that was my most pleasant surprise because I'm a huge My Chemical Romance fan. So in the last episode, when a brand new song from Gerard Way popped in there, I was like, oh my God. I would have watched 10 crappy episodes just leading up to this. But no, I watched 10 good episodes leading up to this. So it was that cherry on top of this whole thing. But as I said, I've been reading a little bit of the comic, and it's way more tapped down. Because in this, there's really only like one quote-unquote superhero-ish kind of guy. The guy who's throwing knives. He's the only one going out there like still as a vigilante. In the comic, they're all like still kind of superheroes in one way or another for the most part. So I kind of dug that it did go more of like the human element in here. Because, yeah, man, if you grew up with a father who was that screwed up, a lot of you would never want anything to do with that superhero life ever again. And I think that made a lot of these characters way more human, which allowed me to attach to them more easily. But what did you think of these characters?
I really did enjoy them. I felt like Luther was kind of like my least favorite because he felt too much like a puppy dog, like always loyal to his father to a fault almost.
I found that to be very interesting myself. I can understand that, but the moment in which it gets to where he finds all the packages he had been sending his dad, and he finds out, oh, Dad was lying to me. Like, I literally did everything for my dad. I had my body, like, mutilated and turned into a big gorilla for my dad, which that was, like, the one effect in here that didn't look great.
Yeah, it just looked like he had, like, a gorilla suit on.
It did, yeah. That was the one effect in here that did not look great.
Yeah.
But it still looked better than than I thought it would. Like, the entire time that, like, he had clothes on over it, I kept thinking, there's gonna be that moment in which they, take off that shirt, what's it gonna look like underneath? And it looked better than I thought it would. But then again, the entire show looked better than I thought it would. And compared to everything else in here, yeah, that was definitely the cheapest effect in all of this. But they were smart enough to realize not to show it that much. So good for them. But yeah, I found that to be really an interesting turn for his character when he finds out that his dad, basically this guy who he had idolized, like the one guy who stayed loyal to his dad, when he finds out that the dad didn't have a secret mission for him, he just wanted to get rid of him because the dad realized he fucked up and he didn't want to be reminded of what he did. And he thought, well, you know what? I screwed my son up. I need to give him some kind of a purpose, so I'm going to send you to space for this important mission. Yeah, I thought that was actually a really interesting turn. I wish that they had delved a little bit more into it, because basically he just goes on a giant bender, and then it's time to save the world.
Yeah.
So I wish we had gotten a little bit more.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, I wish there was more character development, but because the apocalypse is literally, like, days away, you didn't really have any time.
Which, again, if they're going to do a thing where they go back in time and they're kids now, it'll be very interesting to see him, like, actually interacting with the dad as a kid now, knowing how full of shit his dad is. I'll be very interested to see that.
How did you feel about the relationship between Luther and Allison?
I don't know. I didn't really buy it that much.
I know there's like a lot of people think it might be incest because
I am always weirded out by shit like that. I really am. Whenever there's like even if they're not related by blood, but whenever there is a thing where it's like, well, yeah, but we were raised together as brother and sister.
It's always kind of weird.
Like that was one of the weirdest things for me in the first couple seasons of Flash, which eventually I got over it. But in the Flash TV show, they changed it around so that Barry Allen was raised by Iris West's dad, so they grew up ever since they were kids living in the same house. In like the first season of that show, I kept looking like, you have really good chemistry together as brother and sister. So anytime that Barry was like pining over her, I was just like, ew. In like season 3, they got past that and it actually did feel like a romance to me. But yeah, in those first couple seasons, it felt like brother and sister to me. It was like, oh my God, no. So yeah, I'm always kind of weirded out by that. Like, I remember when I was a kid, like, I'm not that old, but I do remember when I was a kid, people talking about characters on the Brady Bunch hooking up. I was always like, that's sick. Ew. No, I get it. They all grew up in their own separate lives and they're not relatives in life. Yeah, that's kind of the same way I was here, but even more so because they had no lives before they were all adopted and brought together. Like, they were, for all intents and purposes, brothers and sisters. So yeah, it was weird to me. I thought they actually did have some chemistry there, but
considering the background, it's just very awkward.
It's weird. It's really weird. Because, I mean, yeah, you would have, like, oh, God, what was Rumor Girl's name again? I keep forgetting.
Allison.
You would have Allison and Vanya talking about being sisters and the importance of being sisters with each other. I was like, if you two are sisters, then you and him are brother and sister. You can't pick and choose on the sibling thing here, okay? Yeah, man, it really did weird me out at points. Oh, man. Great, now I gotta think about that. So, yeah, I like Luther because I do think that they had a complex thing that came up with him. I wish they just explored a little bit more. I did really love what they did with Allison, and for some reason I don't keep wanting to call her Rachel. What they did with Allison with her daughter.
Yeah.
But I will admit, one of the reasons why I had problems getting into Umbrella Academy in the first place, when I read that little preview, is when Allison popped up and you saw her rumor powers, simply because I looked at it and went, I have no idea how this works. And I wish they had explained it a little bit more in this. Like, they don't explain it at all in this. But in the comics, from what I could tell, she could, like, have rumors just, like, alter reality. Whereas in this one, it was more of like a mind control where she would say a rumor and that rumor would get inside someone's head and make them do a thing. So that helped a little bit. But in the comics, I kept looking at it like, it really feels like you can control reality, so I don't know why you have any problems at all with anything. But in this one, it did seem more like a mind control thing, so that helped a lot. And I thought that it was great when they get into like her messed up backstory where she actually used these powers on her kid.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's something that a lot of parents out there, they can probably relate to. Man, I really wish I could just make my kid do whatever I say.
Yeah.
And she did it, and then it makes you realize, yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah.
No.
That's manipulation.
Yeah, that is like taking away free will from your own child is what that is. And you look at everybody in here, and everybody in here is so screwed up for one reason or another. Like, you know you're in trouble when the two most functional members of your family are the guy who goes around as a vigilante throwing knives and the dead guy. Which, that was one problem I had with this. I wish we had seen more of the dead brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it feels like there are several episodes where he, like, just left, and I felt like he could have served as, like, the ultimate, source of conscience for many of these characters, like, the voice of ultimate reason, and the irony of, like, having the voice of ultimate reason being the guy that only the crazy guy can hear, or he could be, like, the perfect punchline to many jokes. And they just didn't really use him that much.
Well, I understand they didn't use him that much because he is dead and only, like, Klaus can, like, communicate with him and everything. And Klaus, most of the time, is, like, on drugs and alcohol because he can't handle having
because
those
he's trying
powers.
to tune him out. Yeah, I guess that does make sense.
Yeah, so it's like now that
does make sense,
like
yes.
now that he starts, like, to sober up and he's actually has the ability to, like, kind of, like, bring Ben into consciousness again almost during the end. Like, I think Ben will have, like, more screen time in, like, the second season.
And then again, we have no idea what the second season is going to be, because if they do go back to when they were kids...
Will he be alive?
They can change it so that he doesn't die, and yeah. It's really... Man,
I don't know where the second season's gonna go,
really
but you know there's gonna be one.
Oh, yeah, man, this thing has been a huge hit. Granted, they did spend way more money on this than anything else. Or maybe they didn't. I don't know. I don't know if they spent more money on this or if they just hired the people who knew how to use the money that they had. It does raise a lot of questions in here. Because, again, like, really good cinematography, that does cost a little bit more money than bland cinematography, but a lot of it comes down to the eye of the people who are shooting things. And yeah, man, the cinematography in here, like, every single goddamn shot in this thing is great. So you know they just hired the right people on this thing. We haven't even gotten to the whole time travel element of this thing.
Yeah, that's like a whole another thing. It's like two things. You got like superhero family and time travel.
And the apocalypse.
And apocalypse. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like a lot. Like I said, there's a lot going on.
Again, I don't mean to keep ragging on the Marvel shows here, but the Marvel shows that tend to be, I'm going to take down this one guy from point A to point B from this entire season for 13 episodes. The only one that really kind of spiced that up was Luke Cage season 1, which is one that everybody complains about because they like the first half of Luke Cage, then they kill off the guy that everybody liked, which, again, I keep talking about how everybody in the Marvel Netflix shows are one thing. Cottonmouth was not one thing. Cottonmouth was many things. In fact, all the villains on Luke Cage were actually really well developed. I gotta give him credit for that. Except for Diamondback. Diamondback sucked. But yeah, Luke Cage is the one show where they actually did try to have multiple villains doing multiple things within one season. And yeah, it didn't quite work out for them all that much. But this one, they've got so many goddamn plot lines going, and it's 3 episodes shorter than a Marvel show. Yeah, man, keep this stuff moving.
Like, are the Marvel shows like half an hour long?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. They're an hour. So, God damn. And again, like, man, I remember when those first couple of Marvel Netflix shows were coming out, I would pull an all-nighter to watch every single one of them because I was indeed hooked on them. But it's one of those things where you can look back on it now and be like, yeah, it did not need to be 13 episodes long. And that's one of the reasons I kind of stopped watching the Marvel Netflix shows later on, is because I just didn't really want to come back to them. Like, Daredevil Season 3 is the best season of Daredevil. I took a good week or two getting through that thing, whereas, Season 1, Season 2, I finished them in a night. Even though I had work in the next morning because I had to get through this thing. I had to go through them all. Yeah, later on I was like, yeah, okay, well, he'll probably still be in the exact same place by the end of this episode they was at the start of it, so I'm fine now. This show, so much happened.
Sorry.
Excuse me. There was an entire, there was one episode in here where they do, some crazy stuff where they go back in time and prevent anything that happened in that episode from entirely happening. Mm-hmm. And again, I looked at that, well, that kind of seems like a cheat, but then they sum up everything that happened in that last episode in the first, 5 minutes, and then they show you how everything that they did differently by going back in time is changing all that around. That is great. That is something that seemed like it should not work, but it absolutely does work in this show. Now, we do have some problems with this thing. Mm-hmm. Man, we haven't even really talked about Vanya and Ellen Page. I said Ellen Page showed up to work, but we didn't really get into any details on her. But we will get into some details about her after I talk about some of my problems. One of my problems is I can't lie, I am kind of sensitive to whenever they give someone a supporting character just to kill him off. Mm. And I feel like when it comes to, what was he, Diego? The guy who threw the knives.
Yeah, that's Diego.
Yeah, he had that cop. Mm-hmm. And it really feels like the cop only existed to be killed in this show to, give him inspiration.
Yeah, it's I felt like there were quite a few tropes, superhero tropes in here.
There are indeed a lot of tropes in here.
Yeah, with Vanya and...
I turned to you literally in, the next to last episode of this, and I said, I'm really getting sick of the whole, I gained superpowers because I went off my medication trope. We've seen that many times, and in all fairness... Many of the other times we've seen that, the person turns out they actually are completely okay, and the medication was just doing a bad thing to them. In this one, it's oh no, she actually was kind of mentally disturbed a bit, so maybe the medication actually was kind of helping her a little bit. But then again, it makes you wonder, okay, well, was she disturbed in a way that actually did need medication, or was she disturbed in a way that she was damaged from all the stuff that her family had done to her over the years?
And it's almost like a combination of it.
It is kind of a combination of the two.
It's I knew, the beginning when they say, Vanya doesn't have any powers.
Something's coming.
Yeah, it's I think she's gonna go Phoenix,
Oh, wow, so you called it that much?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't, again, I know nothing about, I had not read the comic up until I had watched this show, so I didn't know what was coming, but, yeah, I wouldn't have guessed Phoenix, but yeah, you nailed it. She absolutely went full-blown Phoenix on this thing. We knew that was kind of coming. But yeah, that is the thing that I've seen a lot of times where, the medication is actually the bad thing and it's keeping you from being special or, not even with superpowers, but there's a lot of things where it's well, I can't have my artistic visions unless I'm off my medication. It's
no, it doesn't work.
Shut the fuck up about that stuff.
No.
Shut up.
Trust me.
That's not the best message to put out there. Medication is something that for many people actually is a necessary thing, but the reason why I kind of always give this one a pass is because you do look at her after she goes full Phoenix, that's oh shoot, maybe the medication actually was kind of helping you a little bit.
It's funny because it's kind of like the opposite for Klaus, like Vanya and Klaus, they're both on drugs.
In a way, yeah.
But different kind of drugs. To mellow.
One of them is suggested by a doctor.
Yeah.
And the other one is suggested by Dr. Good Times.
And both the drugs tune out their superpowers.
Yeah.
So once they're off the drugs.
I hadn't really thought about that. You're right.
Yeah, but it's with Klaus, he can actually control his powers. With Vanya, hers is it's too much for her.
But it's also one of those things where when you learn about her past and how the dad just did not know how to deal with any of this. Mm-hmm. And he did not handle it very well. It does make you wonder, what if this had gone differently? Because we see that she was cornfielding some people in the beginning of this thing. She was going Twilight Zone on this.
Yeah.
Where she was she murdered several nannies,
and, that's
real humans.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that bothered me because they always say, Vanya's, the innocent one. She's the one who cries when we step on ants, and yet there she is, killing off nannies because she didn't want to eat her oatmeal, and it's this is a very strong juxtaposition.
Which man, it's a strong juxtaposition, but it also, in many ways to me, kind of makes her a very complex character because it makes you look at her and go, okay, what's the real Vanya?
Yeah.
What is the real you?
Yeah, because like when they put her back in the isolation chamber, she started talking to herself again.
Yeah. Which, man, you were talking about going full Phoenix. Oh, man. Oh, wow. Wow, I wish you had not said that because I can't not see it now. Yeah, man. It is a really interesting conversation, and man, I've always said that comic books and science fiction in general can serve as metaphors for so many other things in life and raise so many discussions. And when you think about the fact that, Vanya, she was this sweet, caring, kind person when she was on this medication, but then when you saw her as a child, she was like murdering all these people, and then afterwards she just decides to become your true self and she listens to her younger self's visions and whatnot.
Yeah.
It makes you kind of go, it's like, okay, well, was the real you the, like, really angry version of you? Was the real you the one who was peaceful because the medication allowed you to become the real self?
Yeah.
Or is it a combination of the two of you somewhere in between? Kind of makes me think of Celeste from last year. Like for anybody who never finished Celeste, spoiler alert for Celeste. But like it's this like girl who's very angry, very down on herself, but that's like the dark side of herself that she tries to reject and says isn't like her. And instead, the real version of herself, she's very quiet, she has panic attacks, she's very nervous about everything, she doesn't believe in herself. And then towards the end of it, she discovers that like that's not her evil self, it's just another side of her, and she has to accept that that's another side of her, and that's how she actually becomes better, and she kind of becomes one thing. It kind of feels like maybe that's the answer to that, but as I said, it raises kind of philosophical discussions about this sort of stuff. And I think that is a brilliant thing for science fiction to do. But it also, man, a lot of what makes Vanya work is just Ellen Page is so damn good. And this is one of the reasons why I love Netflix. Steven Spielberg, he this weekend came out and he made an argument about why Netflix films should not be considered for the Academy Awards, despite the fact that Roma totally deserved it over many of the other things that got nominated this year. And I saw someone on Twitter say, Mr. Spielberg, you have your Oscar. Now please let women and people of color have theirs. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at Ellen Page in here, who is acting her ass off in this thing and doing a great job. And Ellen Page got kind of booted out of Hollywood after she came out as a lesbian. It's a thing that happens to a lot of actresses and actors out there. The moment they come out and reveal that they're gay, like Hollywood, despite being this big, despite talking about how pro-gay rights they are, they don't really want to work with gay people. They're not exactly the friendliest when it comes.
No, it's like, we want a movie about gay people, but we need to hire straight actors.
We need to hire the straight actors that straight America is willing to watch and feel good about themselves and convince themselves that they're actually supporting gay rights by doing this. And I'm looking over at Netflix where they're just like, we don't give a fuck. Netflix, if you can act, you get in a show. If you can direct, we're going to give you a movie. We'll also give out shitty movies too, because don't get me wrong, I fully realize there's a lot of crap on Netflix as well. Yeah. But I'm looking at Netflix where they're just like, dude, listen, everybody who gets kicked out of Hollywood, come to Netflix. We'll give you some good shit over here. Yeah, man, Steven Spielberg, shut the fuck up, man. I'm sorry, old man yelling at cloud. You had your time. It's time for the people who got kicked out of Hollywood to actually get a shot at some shit. Oh my God. I don't know if you guys heard that. I don't know if you heard that. I have a Mario block that makes a ching every time that it gets hit. I just scooted my chair up, slammed it on the floor, and it caused that thing across the room to make the noise. There's some behind the scenes stuff for you. But yeah, she is such a great character because she has to play so many different roles. And there are moments where she, again, it makes me think to certain other things that I used to see on other superhero shows that shall go nameless, where someone is having a big freak out and is like, wow, that's some acting, all right. Acting! But I saw this where she is screaming, get out! And I was like, oh my God, if I was on set that day, I would have run out of there like, someone's up with Ellen Page, everyone, let's because she was freaking me out through the TV screen on that one. And there are moments where she's having a panic attack. That was a panic attack. Mm-hmm. Like, I have seen people have a panic attack. That's what it looks like. She just nailed that freaking thing. Yeah, and there towards the end, when she's like She does go full Phoenix. Like, her clothes even change there at the end.
Yeah, her violin changed color, too.
Which, man, you want to talk about a show that has, like, complex characters in there? The father is such a piece of shit in here, but he's an alien. He came from another planet, which, in the comic, that's something that gets revealed in the very first issue. They just, like, throw it out there, like, yeah, he's an alien, whatever. In this one, it's cool that they save it until the end because it made me wonder the entire time, like, are they going to actually get to the fact that he's an alien, or was that too weird? No, nothing was too weird for this show. So at the end of this, when they reveal he's an alien and the violin is the only thing he brought from his home planet, he gives it to Vanya and he's like, yeah, sure, whatever, I don't care about any of this stuff. You're not important in any way, shape, or form. But then he gets that little like look like, yeah, okay. Man, I'm not saying he's a good father. He's a shitty father.
But he's a complex character, and that's what makes him so interesting. It's
exactly.
Like, and honestly, it's like, you can understand his motivation, like why he does it, even though you know it's a shitty thing he's doing.
This is a guy who literally killed himself just to get all of them to talk to each other again so that they could save the world. Yeah, man, this is a guy who was willing to do anything it took to save the world. He just was a complete dickabout, and maybe if he hadn't been a dickabout, he could have actually formed a better team. Yeah, this guy, again, it's one of those things where so many people think that if you applaud a character, you're applauding their actions. No, that's not how characters work. Sometimes complex characters are complete pieces of shit, but that makes them a well-written character. Yeah, this guy, he's just the little bits that you get in here make him so complex. By the way, speaking of that moment where you learned that he killed himself to get them back together, I love the fact that Klaus meets God. Yeah. And God is just like,
a little girl on a bike?
Not just a little girl on a bike, but a little girl on the bike who just openly says, I don't actually like any of you people. But you're God, you're supposed to love all of us. Who told you that? Could you get out of here now? I love that moment. That was so good. So let's see. Talked about, I keep wanting to call her Rachel, and I have no idea why.
Allison.
We talked about Allison. We talked about Luther. We talked about number 5. We talked about Vanya. We talked about Klaus. We didn't really talk about Diego.
Well, he doesn't. He's like the most normal as far as like superhero-ing goes.
Again, I kind of love that. That the most normal member of this goddamn family is the one who goes out as a vigilante throwing knives at people at night.
Well, I mean by normal, I mean what we expect from a superhero.
True. But also, he's not that fucked up of a person.
That's true.
He's doing what Dad trained him to do, but he knows what Dad trained him to do is a shitty thing, so he's doing it in his own way. Mm-hmm. So he kind of has his most identity to him. And I do kind of love the relationship he has between him and Mom. I love that even though Mom is a robot, Mom was still there for him when he needed someone.
He was the mother figure.
Yes. And I love that sorry, indigestion. And I love how much that meant to him and that you can actually see like how much that weighs on him.
Yeah, like he had a stutter when he was little and she helped him get over it.
And when it comes back around, I really enjoyed those little bits in there as well. So, okay, man, we still have not talked about the time travel element.
Oh, yes. Like the agents.
How weird is it that, like, that's a thing that could have been its own season.
I know.
And yet it's in here, and it kept this season from feeling flat to me. Like, I know you've said it crawled a little bit in the middle, and I felt like the middle was slower than the beginning and the end. Certainly, I will agree with that. But I think what keeps it from just feeling like a slog to me was that this time travel thing came in here and just provided us with so much more. It provided us with so many more things to talk about.
Yeah, like Cha-Cha and Hazel, like...
Which I did not know that was Missy Elliott.
No, it was Mary J. Blige.
Mary J. Blige, goddamn, sorry.
Not Missy Elliott, but...
Sorry. Mary J. Blige. Okay, yeah, I was about to say, I would have known that was Missy Elliott.
Yes.
Yeah, I did not know that was Mary J. Blige. She was great in that role. The one guy in here who I feel was a little bit flat in terms of the acting was Hazel. But again, I kind of feel like that goes along with him.
Yeah, like
because he's just done.
Yes, he's just done with everything, and like he's basically like the one with the most common sense.
The time traveling assassin kind of is, yes.
And it's like I really liked his relationship with the donut lady. I thought that they were very sweet together.
I've seen a lot of people complain about that because that's another like trope of like this person who's leading their own life just drops everything so they can go along with one of the main characters. But man, have you worked in the food service industry? Have you worked in the food service industry for a couple decades?
Yes, and apparently the time traveling company working for time travel isn't all that great either. So.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, it's like, man, if you form a relationship with somebody who says, like, I want to take you away from all this, if you actually like them and you've been working in a shitty donut store for your entire life, I can't blame you for just picking up and going, like, the person, like, a lot of people have been comparing it to the lady in Baby Driver. The lady in Baby Driver had no point of existing other than just supporting Baby Driver. I understand that. This lady actually had her own stuff. She had her own hobbies, she had her own things.
Yeah, and it's like basically like when we first get introduced to like the time travel, time traveling is in her donut shop basically. Yes. Like when number 5 gets shot down and everything. Yeah. And it's like you think that's just like a one-off. Like the donut shop is just there to like set up this thing, and you move on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. But it's like, oh, this is actually an ongoing thing. That's actually really interesting to me.
It is really cool how they just kept, how that is something that, I'm sorry, I've got to start now. That is really cool how that's something that any other series would have just dropped, and they just picked it up, and they continued it, and they made it important to the plot, and actually made it kind of interesting. So, yeah, all right, I'm totally down with that. By the way, speaking of number 5, I won't forget how much my jaw just dropped after they revealed who his love interest was. Man, again, you want to talk about a complex character. This is a guy who lived in a post-apocalyptic world for so long, he went insane. He went like full Castaway just talking to Wilson. And now he's stuck in the body of a 13-year-old kid. And, oh, God, it's so good. He is so great in this. He may be my favorite character in this entire thing. I also love the lady who runs the time-traveling agency. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed her in this because she is just so cold and calculating, mm-hmm. but she still acts like a 1950s like stereotypical housewife.
That like her and like the mom, like they both act like the stereotypical like housewives, but like you know there's more to them than just that. You know it's just a front.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, is there anything else to really talk about in this? I know we've been all over the place, but that's how we are when it comes to the Netflix shows.
Also, this series is kind of all over the place, too. So.
If you have not seen this show and you just heard us describing how there's a man with a gorilla body and time-traveling assassins and they have to stop the apocalypse and, full Phoenix, all that other stuff we mentioned, I cannot imagine what you were picturing in your mind right now. But yeah, man, I really enjoyed this, and it actually... Again, I don't mean to, like, hammer this home, but if this is what we're going to get in terms of, like, comic book adaptations on Netflix, now that Marvel's gone, so, bye, Marvel. I'm sorry.
Oh, we didn't talk about, Vanya's boyfriend.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
E-I-O-U sometimes why, I find it kind of... I like a lot of the stuff in premise behind it. Mm-hmm. Because you talk about how characters in science fiction and in stories in general are often meant to represent other things. When you find out that he was a fan of the Umbrella Academy and he was basically just told, get lost, kid.
Like, and he said, I was born on the same day as all these guys, so maybe I'm one of you too, and I just haven't tapped my powers yet.
He's kind of Syndrome.
Yes, basically. He's basically just Syndrome.
But he's, to me, I look at him as a metaphor for toxic fandoms. Because it is the same, like, I love this thing so much. I've been rejected by this thing. I must destroy it.
Well, that's kind of like what Syndrome was, too.
Yes, so. Syndrome was the perfect example of toxic fandoms. Syndrome was years ahead of his time in that. So that's why I also applaud him for being, like, a really good representation of, like, toxic fandoms. He is also...
Do you want to, like, call him, like, a red herring?
I don't know, because again, we could tell fairly early on, especially after we see him dumping out, because I didn't think he was going to turn out to be like evil or anything at first.
But
when we see him dumping out the pills, that's when I came around to your school of thinking, okay, Vanya's going to have some kind of powers, and he's helping her activate them, but for malicious reasons. Like, that became very clear to me.
Yeah, like, I thought, like, before, like, he threw out, like, the pills and everything, like, he was gonna, like, she was gonna be happy and, like, maybe, like, have control over her powers or something, or, like, something bad was gonna happen to him.
Yeah.
And that would cause her to, like, snap.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, alright, no, they saved that storyline for Diego. When I saw that, I realized he was going to be some kind of a villain. But I never found him to be that fascinating of one.
Nah.
So when Vanya killed him, I wasn't exactly like, oh no, you subverted my expectations on this. I was like, oh good.
Yes, good, get rid of
I'm
him.
okay with this.
Yes.
I'm totally fine with this. In fact, I kind of wish that instead of just stabbing him a whole bunch, she created that tornado going behind him. I wish she kind of just thrown him into the tornado and just exploded.
like pureed him
Like
or
going into
something.
like a blender, yeah. I was kind of hoping for that. Oh, yeah. He wasn't the best part of this show, but he got us to something really good in this show. He was a means to an end.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. Plus, also, as I said, I think that, putting in there a message about toxic fandoms was pretty important.
But, like, I also think it also shows, like, once again, what an absolute asshole the dad was, because he was the one who, like, shoved him away.
Again, like, you think about it, like, if that dad had been like, all right, well, listen, you can be a hero too, but listen, you can't work with us, or, I don't know. I think that if the dad had been a little bit nicer to him, and then he still turned evil, it would have made you root against him far more. But, again, this is a show that is about complex characters. They never want anybody to be one thing. Like, we also know, he's got a dad who's beating the shit out of him at home. This is his escapism.
Yeah.
And then the escapism just tells him to go fuck himself.
Yeah, so it's like, you can't really blame him, but at the same time, it's like, you're taking this a little too far.
You can still blame him, but you can see how his mind got so wrecked.
Yes.
It's like, when you say don't blame him, you're basically saying, well, those people aren't actually villains who do stuff like that in the world. It's like, no, they're villains. But there's a reason why they're villains. Like, very few people are just sociopaths.
That's basically the whole premise of the show. Is like, you did a shitty thing, but I can understand why you did that shitty thing.
This is an entire show full of grays. Like, no one is all white, no one is all black in this thing. Like, everything is just a big mishmash of different grays in this thing. The only all-white thing in here is the cop who got killed. Like, she was the only, like, actually good person this entire thing. So, of course, she had to die to fuel the rage of one of the members of the Umbrella Academy.
I thought the donut lady was actually kind of
Actually, you know what? Yeah, give her credit. She's the only good one this entire show. She actually gets credit.
Yeah.
Because, like, even the assassins, like, they don't really have any choice in this thing. The lady running the time travel thing, what the fuck was I going to say? She still has this, like, everything has to happen for a reason. There's a reason behind this, like, who knows why she's doing all this stuff. Like, she seems evil, but she's got some mysterious motivation, and considering that it seems to be keeping all of time and space running, then maybe that actually makes sense. Okay, alright, I guess I can see that. I really like how complex a lot of these characters are. Anything else you want to say?
I think I'm done.
Yeah, that was a lot to talk about. That was a lot to unpack. So, thank you guys very much for sticking by with us. Next week, we're going to have the Captain Marvel review. Anything else coming out next week? A Marvel movie's coming out, so I don't think you want to be stupid enough to release anything against that. Make sure that you come back for that. And also to anybody out there who wants to read Umbrella Academy, Volume 1 is free right now if you have Comixology Unlimited, so there's a plug for them. But bye, everyone.
Bye.